On the surface, everything in the global economy seems calm, almost deceptively so. But if you look a little closer, you can start to feel a change in the air, a real sense of unease brewing. Today, we're going to dive into three powerful, interconnected forces that are gathering on the horizon, threatening to cook up a perfect economic storm in 2025.
Okay, let's just jump right in with this quote from The Economist because it perfectly captures the tension of this moment. And that one word, implausibly, man, that really jumps out at you, right? It's not just suggesting things are expensive. It's saying what we're seeing in the market, it's like it's playing by a whole new set of rules that nobody else has read.
So, this is the crazy contradiction we're all living in right now. On one hand, you see the headlines record highs, a stable looking economy. But behind the scenes, the people running the world's biggest banks, guys like Jamie Dimon and David Solomon, they're sounding the alarm. They're warning of a sharp and disorderly correction. They're seeing stress levels in key indicators that haven't been this high since right before the 2007 financial meltdown. And we all remember how that went. So, what could actually trigger all this? Well, that brings us to our first major storm cloud, and you'll see how this builds the very real potential for a massive shock to global trade. It really boils down to this one just staggering number 60%. That's the proposed tariff on everything coming from China, not just steel or solar panels, we're talking everything. I mean, think about the phone in your pocket, the clothes you're wearing. A move like this would absolutely detonate one of the world's most critical trade partnerships. And it doesn't even stop there. On top of that 60%, there's another proposed 10% tariff on basically everything else from every other country. So let's be clear, we are not talking about some targeted little policy here. No. This is basically the opening shot of a full-blown global trade war. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Hold on. How is that even possible? Doesn't Congress have to approve something that huge? And look, that is exactly the right question to ask. The answer, though, it's surprisingly simple.
Turns out, a president might not need Congress to sign off at all. There's a whole toolkit of existing laws already on the books, things like the Internationally Emergency Economic Powers Act and different sections of the Trade Act that could potentially be used to push these tariffs through by executive action alone, which, makes this threat feel a whole lot more real and a whole lot more immediate.
All right, so that's the political storm cloud. Now let's pivot to the technological one, which honestly is already here and gathering speed. The way AI is starting to completely rewrite the white-collar job market. I mean, we've all heard the predictions for years, right? Elon Musk has been super vocal, saying AI will obliterate a lot of these jobs. For a long time, it all felt hypothetical, like something way off in the future. But now we're starting to see the cold, hard data that suggests this shift isn't coming. It's already happening. And this data from LinkedIn, wow, it tells a really fascinating story. It's tracking hiring in the fields most exposed to AI. For senior-level jobs, hiring is down, but not by a crazy amount. But just look at junior-level recruitment. It's fallen off a cliff. So what's the takeaway? It's pretty clear. Companies are starting to use AI to handle entry-level tasks, and instead, they're hiring managers to manage the AIs. And this is where it hits the real world. 10.2%. That's the unemployment rate right now for recent college graduates. Just let that sink in for a second. The gap between their unemployment rate and everyone else's is the biggest it's been in 2 decades, if you don't count a major recession. Something is definitely different. So what we're seeing here isn't just the usual, it's tough for young people cycle. No, this feels like a much deeper structural shift. Yeah, it's always been a bit harder to land that first job, but what's new is that the economic boost you get from a college degree, that college wage premium, it hasn't actually grown in 20 years. And graduates now make up a full third of all unemployed people. The rules of the game are literally changing as we speak. Okay, so where does this all leave us? We've got this fragile financial system, a massive political shock looming with trade policy, and this huge technological disruption hitting the job market. So what happens when all these separate storms start to merge into one? And really, these are the 3 ingredients, right? The key components for a potential perfect storm. First, you've got this financial fragility, with markets at levels that are being called implausibly high. Second, a massive political shock that threatens to ignite a global trade war. And third, a deep technological disruption, as AI begins to hollow out the first few rungs of the white-collar career ladder. Look, an economy can usually handle one storm. It can absorb a hit.
But that leads us to the final and frankly pretty unsettling question we're left with. When political, technological, and financial storms all threaten to make landfall at the exact same moment, what happens next?